Writers, authors, self-publishers, let's talk about finding your writing flow because this will really help you finish writing that book that you're working on. Now, the flow state is like a psychological or medical term or something. I don't know the exact meaning medically speaking, but the bottom line is when I get into a flow state, ideas and words flow from my brain to the manuscript with a lot of ease. It just flows, right? And it can last for quite a while. And the trick is to try and get it to last as long as possible. Getting into the flow state for writing or plotting will supercharge your ability to finish writing your book. Be sure to hit that like button if you want more of these sorts of videos. Now, we are all unique individuals, and as such, it will take a bit of time to discover what works for you to get into that flow state. I've tried a variety of techniques to get into the flow, which you may wish to test out for yourself and see what works for you, or perhaps it's a combination of these. So let me share a few of these. Technique number 1 is to try different work areas. Figure out which environments work best for you. Now for me, it tends to be either the living room or the office space in my home that works for me. Technique number 2 is to experiment with the time of day when you work on your book. Now, some people, like me, are morning folk and work better during the mornings. Other people, like Emma Bennett, are night owls and they do their best work at night. Technique 3 is to try writing sprints. Play around with the sprint timing that works best for you. Now, I experimented with this over a few months and I landed on around 8 minutes for writing and another 3 to 5 minutes max of minor editing. Technique number 4 are writing prompts or free writing to get your creative juices flowing. Now, this may help as ideas may pop into your head that work for your book. Now, finally, technique number 5, music. This may or may not work for you, but give it a try. Different types of music to set the mood for the type of writing you may need to do or work on. Personally, I use music to get my brain into the flow. Now, once I'm in the flow, music just annoys me and I need to write in silence, so I turn the music off. Give some of these a try and let me know if any of these techniques work for you. If you resonate with any of that, drop a panda emoji in the comments. As you're giving a few of those techniques a try, you're bound to encounter a few challenges that may interrupt you finding your writing flow. At least, this has been my experience so far. I'll share my top 3 challenges and how I've overcome them to stay in the writing flow for as long as possible. The first one is a bit of a pet peeve of mine, and I'm guilty of making it happen a lot of the time, and that is distractions. This one can really put me off my stride. Now, distractions can come from anywhere. Maybe people interrupt me when I'm busy writing, or I distract myself by checking my phone or emails or something. Either way, distractions need to be kept to a minimum, or none at all preferably, in order for the writing flow to, flow. Try to minimize distractions as best you can. Now, sometimes I get it, it can't be helped, especially if you have family or kids who need your attention at short notice. But you can definitely try your best to reduce distractions like checking social media or scrolling through something like Facebook or Instagram or something. The second one is a lack of inspiration, or maybe some people call it writer's block, where I just can't seem to get the words out for the next line or paragraph or chapter. Something just isn't clicking and the words just refuse to come out. Now, when this happens, I like to do some free writing or write for the bin, but using timed writing sprints. So I try to limit the number of times I do this because time is precious, right? Now, I tend to write for the bin as little as I need in order to get back on track with the story. Another way I like to view this is that I'm writing different scenarios for a scene or chapter, and I literally write like 2 or 3 versions of a chapter. I'll pick one that I like the best and just keep pushing forward. The final one is a combination of either self-doubt, which plagues me like nobody's business, or perfectionism. Both are not very healthy, and I know this because it's not always easy to ignore these intrusive thoughts that form part of who I am. Now, if you've experienced this, you'll know what I'm talking about. Give that like button a panda cuddle if you know how self-doubt and perfectionism is holding you back. Now, these two can really throw a wrench in the writing flow, which is not ideal by a long shot. I do my best to be kind with myself to combat both self-doubt and perfectionism. Now, what I typically do is I ask myself, if this was someone else's work, what would you say? What would I say? To give them constructive feedback and also be supportive of them. Now, 9 times out of 10, the answer is I would be far more compassionate or gentler and kinder. We're often our harshest critics, so if you suffer from these issues, consider this permission to be kind to yourself. We're on this journey to write a book, not to tear ourselves down. Now, just a bonus tip here. I also like to remind myself of the 80-20 kind of guideline. It's not a rule, it's just a guideline. Basically, spending an extra 80% of effort may only yield me, at best, an extra 20% of improvement in my manuscript. Now, this is a colossal waste of my time and resources. It's your life, you can do with it as you wish, but personally, my suggestion to myself and to you is to strive for excellence, but don't waste time if it's unlikely to make a huge improvement to your manuscript. Now, that's what editing phase is for. But let's get that first draft first, right? You got to get a first draft before you can move on. If you found these tips valuable, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more insights. Click here if you want to set goals that will propel you to finish your book, or check out this video if you want to get authentic book reviews.